Batwing number 0, written by Judd Winnick, art by Marcus Toe. We have already seen some flashbacks to David Zavimbe's history as a child soldier. This basically is just the in-between of after he was a child soldier and up to being Batwing. So several years ago, David had broke out in the middle of the night from the rehabilitation home that he was put in, and he's basically just beating up a bunch of gangs around South Africa. And the heads of the rehabilitation center, Matu and a woman named Renee Diallo, they come up in a Humvee and they're like, David, what are you? Stop beating them up. You're going to kill them. And Renee's like, he's not going to kill them. He'd never kill them. He's just going to beat them until they wish they were dead. So they end up getting a hold on him, and he's, they were beating up a girl. They deserve it, da-da-da. And they're just like, hey, we get it. We totally do. But you definitely need a better outlet for this anger and this hatred. So years pass, and David joins the police force. He's a rookie on the force, and one of his other officers comes up with a stack of money saying, like, oh, here's your cut of the share, David. And he's like, this was a burglary. This was a robbery. Like, this cash should be returned to the person it was taken from. And it's like, oh, yeah, it will be, but this is our cut of it. So here you go. So immediately he's complaining to Renee, saying how corrupt the police force is. And she's like, yeah, no, they're all awful, but that's why you need to be better. You need to be, like, the good guy, and that can go your own path there. So night comes, and Matu and Renee are driving, and they're talking about David, saying, like, maybe being on the police isn't the best place for him. After all, he is filled with so much rage. And Renee's like, that's literally all we've got right now. I'm sure something else will happen, but this is where he's able to fight back against this crime that he's so vigilant against. And before they can continue this conversation, their car is attacked by a metahuman who has some energy blasts and devil horns, and the car pretty much explodes. So we cut to David storming into the hospital, looking to see what happened to them. Matu is in critical condition. Turns out he's probably going to lose an eye, a la why he has an eye patch now, but Renee is on life support, and it's not looking good for her. So David's by her bedside, and he swears vengeance. He's like, I will make them pay. He finds out that the name of the guy is Death Jack, and he's trying to become like a budding crime lord ever since he got some superpowers. So David puts on a disguise, just a bandana and goggles over his head, and finds out where he is and heads in with 2 swords and gets ready for vengeance. And he takes him out pretty handily, but he still refuses to kill him. Sorry, they aren't swords, but they're like, they have sword handles, but they're dull. So I don't know what you call that. Training swords, I guess. Batons. Regardless, he takes him out and strings him up after he's been bloodied significantly for the police force to take care of. And we see that he keeps this up. He keeps on doing it, even after Death Jack. He keeps on fighting against criminals because Renee did end up dying. He's swearing vengeance in front of her grave, but he realizes, like, this is probably not what you wanted from me, but this is what I'm going to be doing. So he ends up actually finding a whole lot of metahumans that were springing up around this time, people with some form of superpowers. And he also discovered that there are other people who, like him, that don't have superpowers, are still willing to fight this fight. So he even has a little team put together. They don't have a name, but you can see them all fighting against, like, bigger bads that David probably wouldn't be able to do himself. So one day Matu comes in and sees that David is benching himself up, and he's telling him, like, hey, look, you probably shouldn't be doing this. I hope you understand that. Like, you're just one man. You're going up against literal, like, monsters and armies out there. And he's like, yeah, they may be monsters, but so am I. So we then see another night where he goes out, sets fire to some drug lords' cars, and then starts beating them up. And as he's doing so, he's purposely leaves one of them conscious and tells him, like, go back to your boss, tell him that I'm here and I'm never going to make things easy for him. And as he does so, shadow of Batman appears over him, and he's like, hey, I like the cut of your jib. I like what you're doing here. Maybe I can help. So he flies Matu and Batwing out to Gotham City, blindfolds him to get down into the Batcave, and basically just shows him off and says, like, here's the deal. Batman Incorporated. I'm getting Batman from all these different countries, and I want you to be a Batman. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But why me? Like, there's other heroes. There's the whole kingdom in Africa why am I the one you choose? And he's like, because I see a little bit of you, or me, in you. What with the whole losing a family member and vengeance thing. That's kind of really important to that man part. And he's like, okay, but here's the deal. I'm out in Africa. I can't like jump from high buildings to glide everywhere. That's not really feasible. And he's like, oh, don't worry. I got something for you. And we show the Batwing suit with propulsion tech and everything like that. And he's like, will this be sufficient? And Batwing's like, hell yeah. So yeah, that's how Batwing got to where he was. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's a pretty clear cause and effect. When we knew that he was a child soldier and we knew he had this rage inside him, he wanted to get better, and so he just turned it against crime rather than continuing the war effort. So yeah, it makes perfect sense from a character standpoint that it continues on how it did. I don't really have any complaints about it. The only thing that I kind of am iffy on is the fact that it was just like Batman was just there and was just like, oh yeah, this guy, sure, we'll pick him. I'm positive that back when Batman Incorporated first started before the New 52, they probably gave that a lot more time, but I didn't read that, so I'm just going off what I know, and this just seems a little bit fast to me. It's a good little character beat to say, like, here's why David is the way he is, but it's the actual Bat part of it, the actual part where he became a superhero, is just a little bit lacking, but it's a very tiny part of the story. I don't really mind it that much. So overall, I'd say this one is probably a 7. Good overall, not really anything stand out, just a decent little origin story for Batwing.